everyone, and welcome. My name is Kyla Hannington, and I am the Public Outreach and Engagement Division Manager with the Prince George's County Office of Human Rights, the county's civil and human rights education and enforcement agency. We are so happy to be here this evening, and it's awesome to see all of you. We're really delighted and grateful for Greenbelt Community Church, and particularly David Alexander, who came to one of our previous interfaith events. Our office has done interfaith events for many years now, and David came to one that we held in February, and on his way out the door, he said, I want to bring this to Greenbelt Community Church. And then he subsequently basically did all the work, found the panelists, found the theme, and he's just been an amazing partner. So we just want to take a moment and thank Greenbelt Community Church, and particularly David.
So, welcome everybody. I've been looking forward to this evening, and I'm now here. Thank you all for coming. I hope you enjoy this as much as I am sure I will. I have always loved travel in general, and there's something especially fascinating about traveling with a spiritual purpose. It's always captivated me. Mostly, I have been an armchair pilgrim. I read Canterbury Tales in high school and again in college, and all the way up until my very recent reading of, I don't know if any of you remember him, one-time Brat Packer, Andrew McCarthy. I recently read his memoir about walking the Camino de Santiago with his 19-year-old son. So I haven't really done anything I would call a full-fledged pilgrimage, but I've had some interesting experiences during my travel, visiting some different places of religious significance. Then I attended that interfaith conversation at the Mennonite Church in February, and that the OHR put on, and I saw how the framework could be used to talk about pilgrimage. So I talked to Kyla, and here we are. But there was still one big step that had to be taken in order to make this happen, and that was I had to find panelists. It turns out I know some really amazing people. I contacted people, and I contacted people who contacted people, and we struck gold. This is the dream team of pilgrimage. So I'm going to tell you about their experiences. Dr. Arif Dajani is a lifelong Muslim who lives at the intersection of traditional, progressive, and Sufi Islam. Arif experienced transformation upon completing the once-in-a-lifetime Hajj to Mecca in 2015. Arif served on the board of directors of the Muslim Community Center in Silver Spring and currently leads a monthly Sufi study circle online. Over the span of 5 weekends in March, Arif played a Roman Catholic priest on stage in full vestments in a musical production in Annapolis. From the published review, Dajani played the priest with great piety, firmly upholding church standards. So Arif is very much committed to interfaith activities. Dr. Hima Kar Sidhu boasts a rich professional background in neuroscience and sleep medicine, spanning academia, research, industry, and clinical practice. Beyond her professional pursuits, she actively engages in interfaith initiatives, serving as a panelist and speaker at the Parliament of World Religions and various interfaith gatherings. She currently holds a position on the board of the Interfaith Council of Metropolitan Washington and participates in the All Faiths in Friendship book group, fostering understanding across religious lines. Dr. Sidhu is also deeply committed to community service, volunteering as a pastor at Howard County General Hospital for a decade, and contributing to disaster drills and bias dialogues in Montgomery County. Additionally, she is a charter member and former president of the Khalsa Toastmasters International Club and serves as a counselor for the Youth Khalsa Toastmasters Gavel Club. I should also mention Dr. Dajani is also a very experienced Toastmaster. I'm not sure about Reverend Whitco, but if you need to be hooked up with a club, I can help you out. Speaking of, Reverend Ellen Whitco is an ordained minister in the United Church of Christ and is currently serving the United Church of Christ of Annapolis. In July 2020, Reverend Whitco began studies for, get this, a Doctor of Ministry in Pilgrimage and Spirituality. Okay, you had me at Doctor of Ministry in Pilgrimage and Spirituality at the Theological School of Drew University. She is currently writing her dissertation on how following Harriet Tubman today leads to personal transformation. She has traveled to Israel, Spain, and Italy to follow in the steps of Jesus, St. Teresa of Avila, as well as St. Francis and St. Clare. Reverend Whitco and her family, including Pops Storm and Jenny, live on Maryland's eastern shore. Ellen enjoys baseball, reading, singing, and quilting. And let us not forget our moderator, Renee Battle Brooks, Executive Director of the Prince George's County Office of Human Rights, has spent most of her legal career as a litigator, as an assistant public defender in Maryland, and as an assistant state's attorney for Prince George's County, Maryland, where she spent almost 19 years prosecuting child abuse, sexual assault, and human trafficking crimes. In December 2018, Ms. Battle Brooks was appointed as the Executive Director of the Prince George's County Human Relations Commission, now the Office of Human Rights. The Office of Human Rights investigates complaints of discrimination, oversees the county's Human Trafficking Task Force, manages an immigrant defense program, has responsibility for the county's language access compliance program, builds understanding across diverse communities through robust outreach, and heads a youth leadership academy. And they put on interfaith dialogue panels. Ms. Battle Brooks lends her services to community issues and groups, has served on the Maryland Coalition Against Sexual Assault Board as president and board member, and is a violinist playing regularly with the New England Symphonic Ensemble. So we're going to learn many very interesting things about faith and pilgrimage, but here's the really big thing I want to know. I read a book recently about pilgrimage by an English professor, a professor of religious studies who is English. And he specializes in studying pilgrimage practices in Japan. He talked to a Japanese couple who had been on a number of pilgrimages. They did pilgrimages to Buddhist temples in Japan, including the pilgrimage which visits 88 Buddhist temples on the island of Shikoku. Then they went farther afield and visited some Buddhist sites in China. Then they went even farther afield and visited some Buddhist sites in India. And now I'm going to quote from the book. Thereafter, they went to European Christian sites, such as Lourdes and Assisi, viewing their visits there as pilgrimages because they told me, while they were not Christians, they were pilgrims. Even though they knew nothing of the languages or the cultures they were visiting, they had not felt out of place. They were in the familiar and recognizable world of pilgrimage. So I want to hear from Haji Arif about his transformative experience in Mecca, from Dr. Sidhu about the subtle differences in the ways that Sikhs understand pilgrimage, and from Reverend Whitco about what she has learned about pilgrimage from both study and practice. But the really big thing I want to know on top of all that is what unifies all these stories into a world of pilgrimage. So thank you for coming. I hope you enjoy the program.
Well, thank you, David. Thank you, Kyla. Thank you, panelists. I'm excited. I am excited to hear and to learn. And David, if I forget to ask the questions that you want to know, you'll have the opportunity. But hopefully you will, with the themes that we're discussing, they'll answer your questions. And so as we embark on this adventure together, I think it's important for us to maybe keep this framing. And that is, how do we understand the world, ourselves, our faiths, and the experiences of others more deeply through the lens of pilgrimage? Right? So how do we understand ourselves, our faiths, the experiences of others, the world, everything? How is all of that wrapped up through this concept of pilgrimage? So, as a lawyer, I always want to make sure we all understand the words, right? That we all have the same understanding. And when I understood what this topic was about, I had sort of preconceived ideas of what I think of pilgrimages, what it means. But it's irrelevant. I want to hear from each of you, what does pilgrimage mean to you through your faith perspective? So I will start, and they've given me permission. Doctor, and Reverend have given me permission to use their first names. So I guess we'll start with Adif.
Well, first of all, happy Pride for those of you who observe it, since we are now in the month of June. For me, pilgrimage is both an external experience and an internal experience. You can't really do a pilgrimage unless it takes effort to get where you're trying to go. Which, when you get to where you're trying to go, there are often traditional stations, I'll use that word, traditional stations of things that you need to do. But so much of pilgrimage, doesn't matter what the faith community is self-discovery. Because I was looking for pictures, and I found so many. Looking for pictures, I actually brought pictures from 2 pilgrimages I went on. One which was my obligatory pilgrimage to Mecca as a Muslim, and the other one was a self-funded birthright tour to the Holy Land where my family is from. So I have pictures actually from both.
I understand, coming from a Protestant Christian perspective, which is mine, I understand pilgrimage to be a journey to transformation, a journey that begins wherever you live and takes you out wherever you choose to go, and you can be an armchair pilgrim, because as long as you're having experiences, as long as you're learning, as long as you're talking with people, and that can happen through reading books and watching movies as well as traveling to the other side of the world. So you're looking for a time of transformation, a time where you are leaving your everyday life, going into what's called a liminal experience, where you're not there, you're not where you were, and you're not where you're going to be. You're in the middle, and you're having the experience. And you're looking for, I would say, transformation. You're looking for an experience of transformation. From my perspective, I'm looking for an experience of the divine through whatever my experiences is with people, with books, with travel, that makes me a new person when I return home from the pilgrimage. So that's my thoughts.
Hello. Before I begin anything today, I would like to bring up a slide number 11 for me, please. Today, Sikhs mark the 40th anniversary of Sikh genocide. And that's one of the main reasons that I picked up to be part of this interfaith conversation. I would request a moment of silence for those we have lost.
91 minutes of silence.
Thank you all for sharing this minute with me and my community. Next slide, please. years we have gone through this, and Resilient 6, they have built boats that demolished for us. Now, let's move on to the question, the pilgrimage, the way I think of my faith. Personally, I would say for me, and as a Sikh, it's transformation every day, every minute. If I can be closer to myself, that's the pilgrimage. And the Sikh teachings are inward journey. There is no such place for us to go and be as a pilgrimage part physically. This golden temple, which I showed you, yes, it's the highest seat for us, which we do acknowledge, but at the same time, in the journey of life, it's the inward pilgrimage. That means watching your own vices and bringing out virtues. So that's for me, the pilgrimage.
So I've heard some themes. I've heard internal, external, which is fascinating to explore. I've heard transformational, and really journey seems to be the common thread. And so when you think about this, how does making a pilgrimage impact the pilgrim's sense of self, or their place in their religious community and their place in the wider world? So I think that is more reflective of that internal prep that Atif talked about.
Can you repeat the question again? There was a lot to it.
Would you like to?
Because I was jotting down.
Yes. So some of the common themes of pilgrimage that we've each spoken of. How does making a pilgrimage impact the pilgrim's sense of self, their place in their religious community, and their place in the wider world?
Thank you so much for the question. For my faith tradition, the pilgrimage to Mecca is to walk in the footsteps of the patriarch Abraham, his eldest son Ishmael, and Ishmael's mother Hagar. And so for me, making that pilgrimage means walking in the steps of so many others over so many millennia. That gives me a sense of self in terms of belonging to a larger community. So that's the place in community. But at the same time, people do this pilgrimage for a reason, and not just because it's required. It's because there is a benefit. But sometimes with pilgrimage, you only really figure out the benefit once you've done it. And for so many people, they go through the rituals of pilgrimage without really reflecting. So I really liked how my Sikh sister was talking about the internal side. While many other of my sister brother Muslims were reading Quran and reading scripture, I was doing journaling throughout the entire time. And I learned so much about myself through that process. Things like, am I going to make it through this? Because the weather is very hot in that part of the world. So being able to step in the footprints of others gives me a sense of self in terms of that, yes, I am doing it. I am doing what others have done, but that also gives me a place in the world as well. But because I'm a Sufi, I believe in the inward path. That means that there's a lesson, and I'm only going to figure out what the lesson is at the very end.
I agree with about, it's really afterward that you realize kind of what happened to you and what you went through. When I was in Israel almost a year and a half ago, you know, on a Christian pilgrimage, you go from place to place, and all the places say, this is where this happened, and this is where Jesus died, and where Jesus was crucified, and where Jesus died. And then you can walk down the street, walk out of the old city and walk down the street, and there's another place that says, this is where Jesus was crucified, and this is where he died. And I really had to come to the understanding that to go on a pilgrimage, you know, it's like I'm walking in the footsteps of Jesus, which as a Christian is what we want to do, because we want to follow the way of Jesus. And that it's really not the place, but it's just remembering the event. Remembering our story, whether it is actually fact or has a little fiction to it, but it's our story, and it's the one we tell. I had this really amazing experience at the Sea of Galilee, where after having gone all over the old city and some other places, just sitting there and listening to the water lap against the rocks, and just imagining that somewhere on this lake, Jesus must have sat, just like I'm sitting now, and just have thought about God and what was God calling him to in the world, and was he really willing to go there? So for me, it's very inner and it's very outer, because it did happen in a place. Our religious story happened in a place. So that's what it was for me.
I would like to share my slides and show you where I stand with pilgrimage at my level and at world level. So can I have slides number 4? So this is the Golden Temple, Amritsar, not as a physical pilgrimage where people go to pilgrim, but this is the highest seat of the Sikhs where people go and spend their time. Next slide, please. There is a reason why I'm showing you all these slides. I'm going to relate this back to myself and then to the world. The intricacy of the art which is there. Next, please. Again, the gold plating, the glittering, and all the glitters you can imagine in the world. 110 pounds of gold is plated on this temple as of today. Next, please. Now, this is where the world comes, and this is how we see people. This is how I vision the picture where they are preparing meals from scratch. You see people sitting and, other person is cooking. Next slide, please. And this happens at a large scale. 100,000 people a day are served. People can come from any walk of life to partake langar. This is what we call langar, the community kitchen prepared from scratch. This is how we see the world. Anybody visiting from any part of the world, any sect, any walk of life, once you get there, you are in a different world. You don't feel you are from a different human race. We all are one. There is a light which we all share. When people come and sit together, this is how we perceive the world. From cooking, serving, sitting together, no difference. Who is coming from which walk of life? Who is practicing what? So, bringing it back to one common thread, that we are all basically one. This is love shared with the community members all over the world. And this is the people are partaking. This is the part where they have to sit and eat together. They forget. Literally, if any one of you will go there and visit, you will literally forget there is an external world. That's how powerful this is. And people can partake longer, no fees charged. Just follow the rules, follow along, and this is the perception of the word from the Sikhs. This is the pilgrimage. Back to you.
So this is fascinating because hearing everyone talk about this, it sort of raises the question then, does a pilgrimage have to have structure? And hear me out. Because as I was listening to what Ellen was saying, what Hema was saying, and Adam, I reflected a little bit about sort of my own experience. And particularly, Ellen, it resonated. I lived with my family at a time in the Middle East, in Lebanon. And we visited Israel several times. But those same reflections, like I would get up in the morning and walk to class, I'm thinking, wow, 2,000 years ago, did the sun feel like this on the face of Jesus or the apostles, or right? Are these some of the steps? And so those sort of reflections are very similar, but this was no structure. And so it makes me think, is there, right, for people that are coming, there's maybe their intent, to visit this amazing place is maybe their intent wasn't a pilgrimage, perhaps. But you follow what I'm asking?
Yes, I do, because that's the whole base of the Sikh philosophy, that we don't have a structure where we really have to go and visit. Yet we do have, like this Golden Temple I'm showing you, we have other places, historical places. Golden Temple is just not a temple for us. There's a lot of history, like the very first slide I showed you, and then we rebuilt it. And if you look at the aerial view, if you Google and look at it, it's actually like a boat, the temple. And I realized it as I was doing some research that, how come there is so much tranquility when you go and sit on the edges of the water? Because there is constantly the hymns which are sung. And the hymns are sung according to the time of the day, and the notes changes. And I think that makes it more sacred and more holy. For me personally, I have experienced it. When I was visiting their place, I was actually brought up in that city. I used to go there quite often. The best time I enjoyed there was early morning hours or in the evenings, because that's when things calm down and there's nothing but tranquility. And that's truly a way when I was trying to connect to myself. And there is, if I can bring the slide up for I think it's the last slide. If you really take a look at the last slide, it'll look like that it's a ship, but it's actually a temple. And then there is a bridge, which when you walk from point A to go in, for me, it's like a docking station. So if you can, or somebody who is visiting the pilgrimage and the moment you walk down with humility and trying to be in that world where you are, that means the internal world, that's your pilgrimage, and this being a symbol there for you, that if you can connect the two, I think that's heaven for me. So that's how I look at it. So it's a ship docked there. It's a temple, yes, with a lot of history, a lot of sacrifices, the very first two slides which I showed you. But being resilient is one of the natures of the Sikhs. And I'm sitting here again 40 years later still smiling. I was 17 when I showed you the very first slide. I'm a witness of that 40 years ago. But at the same time, this is what has been taught through the Sikh faith, to be resilient, to stay connected to your own self, because that's the only way you will connect to the superpower or the light within you. So that's where I come from. That's why I threaded back.
Beautiful.
Structure. Yes. Structure. I I think most Christian pilgrimage does have there is a way to do it with structure and without structure. The 3 trips that I made were all very structured. I was with people who were very educated in the landscape, the sociology, the religious heritage of the places that we were going. They knew about the art we would see. They knew that many of them had been there many times before and knew local people, and we were able to go visit local houses. It's really, as I hear you talk, I see how different it is in a sense from the kind of pilgrimage that you're describing, and I almost feel a little envious because I like so much what you said. To go to a place and to just feel like you're in heaven is what a wonderful thing. I've never had that kind of experience, but I do. When I was in Israel, I went through St. George's College, which is an Anglican church. They have a cathedral there, the Anglican presence in Jerusalem, and they do pilgrimage as part of their mission. And so we had, and I would see other Christian tour groups, you would call them, more than pilgrimage groups. And depending on what flavor of Christianity you are, you might have a different, you might hear different stories about, this is actually the place, or this is where Jesus said, or you would go to the Jordan River and you couldn't pay me enough money to jump into the Jordan River because it's really, really dirty. And but there were people in my group who were diving in and going up into, and I'm like, oh my gosh, I hope they don't get sick. But and nobody did, so that was a good thing. But it's a different. It's obviously a different. We have different kinds of experiences. I know people who have set out to walk the El Camino to Santiago de Compostela alone, but they never end up alone. They always make friends. And I know people who have gone in groups and still have made friends. And that's part of it, the journey along the way is, so you could go there without structure or with structure. I mean, there is even structure on the El Camino because there are places to stay, there are places to eat, your needs will be met. And even if you have to stop for a while because you just can't walk to the next place, there's a van that will pick you up and take you to the next place if you really need it. So I would say that most Christian pilgrimages are structured. However, as an individual, you certainly can create your own pilgrimage.
I think in my case, this is where it would really help me to talk about my self-funded birthright tour to the Holy Land, because like David mentioned in his earlier remarks, I ended up intersecting with a lot of other faith traditions. The Holy Land is a place of, historically, 6 different faith communities all in a very small place. You have the Baha'is, the Samaritans, the Druze, the Muslims, the Christians, and the Jews. So all of them are in a very, very small space. So when I did my birthright tour, it was really to uncover my roots. So if you go to slide 6, yeah, skip all the stuff about my family. Yeah, there we go. So that's I believe, the Austrian hospice. It overlooks the Dome of the Rock, which is behind you. And if you keep going, Fountain Square is right by the Church of the Holy Sepulchre in the Old City of Jerusalem, in the Christian Quarter. And if you go this slide, the next slide, and the following slide, there are 3 Dejani, my family, 3 Dejani souvenir shops for the Christians, and we're a Muslim family. I mean, it's just that this is the place to go, and we, again, in the same square, they compete against each other. So when I was there, I was not planning to take part in any other prayers, but I did do Friday prayers on the Temple Mount at the Al-Aqsa Mosque. I was able to go into the Dome of the Rock, as I would expect as a Muslim. However, that wasn't enough for me, and I'm about to show you. I also went to the Western Wall, the Wailing Wall. I put my hands up really high, and then I said the prayer in Hebrew. I'll say it in Hebrew, and then I'll translate it. Ozei shalom b'marav, v'yaseh shalom aleinu, v'yam kol Yisrael, v'imru amen, which means, may he who gives peace bring peace to all of us, as well as the people of Israel, and let us say amen. I said, and I said it at the Wailing Wall. I also said it on the Jewish side of the Tomb of the Patriarchs, which is in Hebron in the West Bank. I also prayed on the Muslim side. As I mentioned to our minister, I went to 3 different churches while I was there: the Church of the Nativity in Bethlehem, the Church of the Holy Sepulchre, of course, in Jerusalem, and the Church of the Well, where Jesus was given water by the Good Samaritan. And that was in Naples. That was actually my favorite one. And after all those intersections, you go to the next slide, I spray painted on the wall. It was my first time ever spray painting on the separation barrier in Bethlehem. And it says in Arabic, Al-Ardu li kullina, which means this land is for all of us. I did not expect to get that from my trip. This is the surprise that comes from it. But it was through that intersectionality that it, like what you said about anyone can come, that I really felt that sense of unity through my experience in my discovery of my roots. I was intersecting with people from many different faith traditions.
So this is beautiful. So I wonder, from pilgrimage, whether structured or not, how often we reflect on what we learned or the impressions or how it changed us. And how do we apply it in a practical way?
Can we go to slide number 2, please? This is beautiful because I'm going to walk on and read out loud, because this is the part where the Sikhs, they reflect every day and how they practice. Because that's a beautiful question which you have asked. So this is from the verse of Sri Guru Granth Sahib. I'm going to read in the native language and then translate it, and then we'll connect again. Tanasri Mala Pehla Chant. This is from Sri Guru Granth Sahib, verse 687. Ek Onkar, one universal creator, by the grace of the true Guru. Tirath Naman Jao, Tirath Naam hai. Tirath Sabad Vichar, Antar Gyan hai. Why should I bathe at sacred shrines of pilgrimage? The name, the Lord is the sacred shrine of pilgrimage. This is the reflection question which you are asking. My sacred shrine of pilgrimage is spiritual wisdom within and contemplation on the word of the Shepherd. So that means we need to practice this every single day. I'm going to move on to the last one. I'm going to skip that. Safal Pai, Safal Yatra. My coming and goings, my pilgrimage becomes fruitful when I reflect, contemplate on the name, on the word. Next slide, please. I'm going to connect with all of you. In the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God. Ultimately, we are all one. That means we need to reflect every single day, to practice, to bring it to life within ourselves.
Thank you.
Can you say the question one more time? I was so into what you said.
That was so beautiful. Yeah, it was. It is, how often do we reflect, right, on things that we learned or things that came to us during this pilgrimage, and then how do we apply it?
So during all of my journeys, my pilgrimage journeys to different places, in part of the structure was to have time to reflect. when I got back, and as a pastor today, whenever I meet and talk with my people and get to know them better, as I come to love them more, I remember that we are all, our life's journey is a pilgrimage, and that we are all learning, and that we will all come up with, hopefully our hearts will open wider and wider so that we realize more and more how God is present with us in every moment. And so that's what I think about, how our story and the people that I followed who were either creating the story of the Christian way or living it out, and often under very difficult circumstances. I mean, I always tell my people, being a Christian is not a ride in the park. It's not. It's hard work. So I remember that they go, oh, I wish I could go on a pilgrimage. You're on a pilgrimage, and to just realize that, and that every moment is important, and every way that you do your life matters. So yes, I definitely do see it working itself out also back home.
Thank you. Part of the balance of the internal and the external is to allow for moments of humor during pilgrimage as well. That if you are too much looking towards the ground or looking into yourself, you don't see what's going on around you. So just about the previous one, the one where I went to Ohio Land, I was in the city of Naples in the northern West Bank, which can become a pretty militant city. And I had lunch with a tour group at one of the local restaurants there, where the entire menu was in Arabic. I can read Arabic, I'm not fluent, but I can read Arabic. And this is an Arab-only menu. We were the only non-Arabs in the restaurant. The special for the day, I kid you not, was schnitzel. Schnitzel is not traditional Arab Palestinian cuisine. It is very much Eastern European Jewish. And this was an Arabic-only menu. This was not geared towards tourists. So now, in the Medina one, if you go to 7, 8, and 9, there you go. House of Donuts, and in Arabic it's called Beit Adonat, so House of Donuts. Next one. Then we have KFC and Hardee's. This is in Medina. Finally, this is my favorite one. Corn in a cup. Actually, if you go, even in Prince, what's now called the Mud Prince George's, what used to be Prince George's Plaza, you can get corn in a cup. But this place, that's all they have. And corn, corn comes from the New World. It's not from there. But I want to get back to the question about reflecting. So that's part of the reflecting. Allow yourself to laugh at yourself. Allow yourself to laugh at just hysteria that goes around. Now, if you go to the Mecca slideshow and start at number 1. When I arrived, I was so excited to see the Kaaba, the cube-like structure towards which observant Muslims pray 5 times a day. It was surrounded by cranes, and these cranes, as you can see from the picture, were massive. 2 weeks before I got there, there was a surprising amount of rain. You don't see a lot of rain in that part of the world. One of the cranes tipped over and killed 200 people. That was the first of 2 catastrophes during my Hajj. Thankfully, I hadn't even left the United States left, and just assumed 1 catastrophe is enough. But what happened there is that one of the places I had to go was normally a place where you walk back and forth 7 times. It's normally done on 3 levels. However, because of the destruction to some structures, we only had 1 level to walk. Please understand, I am not a small person. When I was walking back and forth 7 times, it was so crowded that I was lifted off the ground. And where other people were saying prayers of piety, kind of prayer to it. I had a prayer to just stay alive. If you now go to slide number 4, you can see that I was thoroughly getting into it, and I had my traditional Muslim dress. However, if you go to number 7, there is my Muslim pilgrim garb, and I brought with me, I'm not going to put it on, but I brought it with me just to show you what it's like. This is 2 towels. One that goes around your waist, one that goes around your shoulder. Muslim men, when they are pilgrims, they wear these 2. They're allowed to wear sandals, hold a parasol, no hats, no underwear. So the idea is that this is intended to be my funeral shrouds. When I have 2 of these. So in other words, you go and you go to, in a way, the metaphor is to meet your maker. And if we go to, okay, so I did, oh gosh, the story is really tragic. When I finished the final thing on the Hajj, I got back early because I was very damaged from being shoved and pushed around. I had bruises on my rib cage that were blue, red, purple, and yellow. I even went to their clinic just to make sure that I didn't have a lot of internal bleeding. And to get around, they had a light rail system that operated only 3 days of the year. And when I had to get back, the light rail system was broken. And I had to walk for 7 kilometers, literally uphill. But I was so glad when I got there. And what had happened is that this was back in 2015. There was, for lack of a better word, a stampede that killed, according to the Saudi government, 700 people. According to the Associated Press, 2,200 people. And I was less than a kilometer away when it happened. So I was very grateful that I was in the right place in the right time, and I didn't. So if you go to the final slide, which is there I am, that when people finish the Hajj, especially men, their whole head is shaved to get that feeling, not so much Christian, but the concept of being born again. And I'm the guy in the black in the back. That's me, no hair. And so when we're talking about reflecting on what we learn, you just have to keep putting one foot in front of the other. And in the pilgrimage, think about Compostela, think about so many pilgrimages throughout the world. If we could just all put one foot in front of the other, we can reach that destination. Hopefully, if we do it together.
I want to switch gears just a little bit. And I wonder how these modern times that we're living in, have they changed the nature of pilgrims? Are they enhanced? Are there things that are just contractions, or things that are, what's the word? You know, they don't let us focus. What if anything does our modern world have on pilgrims?
Sure. When Muslims used to travel from all over the Muslim world, they didn't have the modern amenities. They would literally travel for approximately a year by ship, by camel, by whatever means necessary. This is where travel to Medina really comes in, because you have to travel to get there. And for me, I did it by plane. Oh, okay. So I started off at Dulles. We go a little rapidly. Started off at Dulles Airport, scroll down, got onto a regional jet, United Airlines, got me to Toronto, to Air Canada. Keep going. Then that got me to Istanbul, where I went onto Turkish Airlines, and that got me to Medina. So no, I did not travel for 6 months to a year to get there, and 6 months to a year to get back. And think about what that does to your family when you're gone that long. For me, but still, the fact that I went different flights and went to different countries along the way, I definitely got the feeling that, yeah, even in modern times, it's still sobering for what it takes to get to where you need to go to even start. So the lesson I learned from that is that the pilgrimage starts the minute you leave your house. It doesn't start when you reach the destination, because that journey is part of that self-discovery as well.
Yeah, I'd like to go along with that is, first of all, I recommend always trying to get a nonstop direct flight. Dallas to Tel Aviv worked really well for me. And I'll pay more money for that. But you're going to sacrifice one way or another, either in money or in time. And as a student of pilgrimage, back in medieval times and Middle Ages, and it was, people had to take a long time just to get there. And it was, families would have discussions about, okay, say that, the male head of the household wants to go on a pilgrimage. Well, what does this mean for everybody else? Who's going to take care of the family while they're gone? And now it's like, I'm going to do a pilgrimage, I'll be gone for a couple of weeks. Or I have one of my friends and her daughter just did Camino de Compostela, and it's 500 miles. I think it took them 6 weeks. But my friend is retired, and her daughter had to take, that time off from work in order to do this. So I think modern conveniences are really great, except when you go on pilgrimages and you find out there are no modern conveniences in some places, depending on where you go. And if you are doing something where you're walking a lot, a lot of it is uphill. Somehow, I don't know, I don't remember walking down, but I remember all walking uphill. It's all uphill. So I think maybe a thing to do is just to be grateful that it isn't as hard, although it's still difficult. It takes a lot of arranging to go on pilgrimage, and you have to be willing to be away from home for that amount of time. My family was home. I did not go with any family members, and so I did miss them. So, but that's part of the price that you pay to do it. Pilgrimage is a sacrifice. And often, what we're doing is giving thanks for those who sacrificed on our behalf.
Well, 6 made it very easy, no structure to visit, so. No uphill, but the hard part, and back to your question, how modernization has helped the pilgrimage or distracted it. It's a two-pronged answer. The life has become so easy with the social media, especially for the sick, since we don't have a structural place to go and visit to pilgrim. Or like I mentioned in my slides, that it's contemplation within on the virtues, giving up vices. Modernization, everybody's cell phone now these days, they have all the verses. Everything you need to contemplate, to meditate, to transcend. Do whatever form of meditation you need to reach to that ethereal level, and that's a pilgrimage. That you can do anywhere. And this modernization has made it very easy, because now it's easily accessible. But how many are we doing? It's the distractions. What are the distractions? The social media. Everybody, is having their head down in the phone like this. I was visiting a place, it was a religious place, and people came for a meditation retreat. And during the lunch, what I saw was there were like 10 people by the wall. All 10 of them were sitting like this. I said, well, they are here for a meditation retreat. And what were they doing? They were not actually reading any verses to meditate. They were on social media. And I say, in coming next 5 to 10 years, neurosurgeons are going to make a lot of money because everybody's going to get a plate in their neck and their necks will have a right. So that's the amount of distraction which we have from the social media. 6, for us, it's easy. If we use it wisely, we can use it to transcend, meditate, and reach to the ethereal level, to bring out our virtues and give up vices every day.
Yeah. One final question before we open it up for questions from our audience. Was there one surprising thing that you learned either about yourself, the world, your faith, that you hadn't anticipated? I guess that's what surprised me. So maybe, was there something that was unexpected that you learned?
And this was with both of my pilgrimages, and I felt privileged to do that. Last slide from the Birthright Tour. In English, on the spray painted on the wall in Bethlehem, it says "Love wins." Love doesn't have a gender. Love doesn't have a faith. Even though I am a musician, I've often heard that people say that music is the universal language of mankind. I don't agree. I think that love is the universal language of mankind. And that was probably the hidden gift that I received from both of my pilgrimages, that we are so much more the same than we are different.
I think I've shown my slides, the one and the last one. Can I have the last slide, please? And when I was researching my topic and trying to put my thoughts together, what I'm going to talk about and, where do I stand personally with pilgrimage and my Sikh faith, I reflected more on the structure of the Golden Temple. I tried to deepen myself into looking into this is really a boat. And if you see in my picture, there is actually a guy who is standing on the boat, and what he's doing is actually he cleans, that's the part of the cleaning process which they do. But that is something which I've learned in this process. I've been going to this as young as you can think of, But to date, this is how I'm watching it, this is how I'm viewing it, this is how I am reflecting upon it, this is how I'm taking in. Like the bridge which I mentioned, I think it's in the very first slide. There is a bridge to get to this Golden Temple, which is surrounded by the water. And that bridge for me is a dock. That means that's my pathway to be fully submerged into the eternal truth or my ethereal level. That's what is surprising, which I learned while doing research on this.
One thing I think I take back with me is how the goodness of a person can live on through centuries. When I was in Assisi, the city of St. Francis and St. Clair, the people who live there are so, whether they are religious or not, they just love that they live in that he and she are they are their people. And this really came out in World War II, when the city, which was primarily Roman Catholic, saved its Jewish population and any other Jews that came to the city, hid them from the Nazis, and really put their own lives on the line to do this. And really, it's the spirit of that city it was a gift that St. Francis and St. Clair left them, a gift of loving one another. So that's something that really has stuck with me.
Well, this is marvelous. I said that you would have the opportunity, but actually, I want to. I have. Yeah, sorry. Before we open it up, are there questions that you have of each other, or a question, or anything that you want to know?
I just would say, you said enemy, I would say holy enemy.
Okay.
I have a question for you. What blessings do you believe you receive from visiting the Golden Temple?
For me, tranquility. That's a blessing.
And for me, with the Kaaba in Mecca, it's connection to everybody else who faces that direction.
Well, I don't know that I have a question, but I just want to thank both of you. I had no idea about your experience of what it is like, and I just think it's just lovely. And I love that you know, your experience of, I think we have a connection with the gift of it. It starts from when you leave, and I think we all do, and I just really appreciate that.
Because going within.
Yes, going within.
And
going
that's the
within.
first step, is to go within.
Yes.
Yeah. David, did we get to the things that you wanted to learn?
I think
Okay. And now? And now, any questions or comments?
So when did you accept Islam?
I love the stereotype. I was born Muslim. My family has been Muslim for time immemorial. I know I don't look the part, but I really am a lifelong Muslim.
So we talked about the first step as the beginning of the pilgrimage. But for people who are preparing for a pilgrimage, what advice would you give those who are starting their first pilgrimage?
Okay, this one was really necessary given the climate that I went into for Mecca and Medina. I don't care where you go, you want to make sure that you get electrolytes, because when you go, the one that I used was, you can get it at REI, the recreational equipment. It's called Noon, N-U-U-N, and you could put it into a bottle of water. It keeps you hydrated and refreshed, and that is really critical, because if you're really gung-ho in your pilgrimage, whether internal or external, you want to make sure that physically that you're okay through the process.
Yes, definitely have good shoes, bring ibuprofen and what's the other, Tylenol. You can take them both together, and I did. But I think preparing for a pilgrimage, I think just concentrate on meditating to open yourself up to whatever the experience has to offer you, and to not have expectations. Yes.
I agree with her. And for 6, I think my advice will be look for oneness, look for the light, look for love, and be humble. You know, humility will take you a long ways. So that's my advice.
Oh, there's one. Oh, one way to experience, I guess I'd call it a pilgrimage light, is to go on a retreat. And for me, I was, a life coach encouraged me to do a silent retreat. As David could tell you, I would probably implode first before achieving that. And he encouraged me to do a Buddhist silent retreat, and I was open to that. But when I learned that they had to sit in certain positions for long periods of time, then that would be the pain from that would be too distracting for me. And that's when I ended up finding a Sufi silent retreat, and that was far more comfortable.
Thank you all for your comments. And my question is maybe the bookend, the other, is pilgrimages are journeys, whether they're inward or outward, and they punctuate our lives. So I wonder if you could comment a bit on the importance of the return after the pilgrimage. When you come back, either whether it's from reflection back to your everyday routine, or whether you come back from the trip, when you to kind of reintegrate it, reprocess it back to where you came from. Because there's a possibility of, going off joining the circus, going on the pilgrimage, and just staying there. But it seems that there's a part of the process or part of the growth that has coming back to where you began with the benefits of the pilgrimage.
If you're lucky, and if you go on a pilgrimage with a group, they probably have a time at the end where you can kind of like a debriefing time, which I think is a really good thing. But I recommend that when you come home, that you try to schedule in just a few days to just be home. You might have some jet lag you need to deal with anyway, and to just be able to process, think of what you've been through. And if you have either a spiritual director or a really good friend who would sit and just let you talk, I think that can be really helpful too. And yeah, you don't, you might want, think about it. You need time to think it through and see how it's moved you.
I was very fortunate that I knew in advance that I would need time to come down off the proverbial mountain. And so when I got home, I made sure to take another several days of leave from work because I was not ready to go back. I needed to really reflect on it. I looked at what I journaled and I read to myself how much that was a period of growth for me. So upon return, the most important, looking at you right now, the most important thing is to give yourself time to return. It takes time.
I would say for Six, like I said, we don't have any place to really go for pilgrimage, but in any case, somebody goes and visits Golden Temple, which I just showed one of the places where I go and I reflect and I come back and I think I carry back the vibrations of that place. And to be at that wavelength, at that vibrational thing, and to come and settle down in the worldly life again, it takes time. And this practice actually, you can go travel out, or even during the day, if you're sitting, you're giving yourself some time to sit by yourself. That means your internal pilgrimage. You still need time to reflect on that. And the way you can do is, whatever one thing if you have thought of when you're sitting, see if you are implementing that in your daily life. So implementation becomes very important when you have picked up on one single thing in a day or in a sitting or in a visit. How will you put that in practice when you get back to the world? Could be your immediate family at breakfast or dinner table, could be out there in the world at large.
Showed us the Golden Temple. It really affected me when I saw the Golden Temple. And that made me wonder, you have a Golden Temple there, but I believe there's still poor people, impoverished people that live there, right? So I feel like, I know that we believe in worshiping God and not statues, so it affected me in a way to see that there's this temple that's golden while there are people who are impoverished.
Somebody have to rephrase that question for me.
Contrast between poverty and the Golden Temple.
With all the gold on top.
Oh, for the Golden Temple, yes, the golden top, yes, it's true. There is a contrast, yes. But the thing is, this is out of the love and the heritage which is being carried out in the Golden Temple. I can ask my colleagues to comment.
But also how you feed people as well.
Yes, feeding of the people is part of it. It's like 1,000 people every day. They come and partake the meal, the community hunger. Yes.
And I'd just like to elaborate on one more thing. The singing of hymns over there begins at 3 in the morning and continues to till 10 at night. And there are various professional singers who come on 1 hour shift. They keep changing. So that's another reason why this place is so holy. Like 15, 16 hours a day, continuous hymn singing, and the glory of God is sung over there.
Thank you.
Comment because I had an opportunity to experience Langar several times actually, and it doesn't just happen at the Golden Temple. It happens at all over the world, wherever there are people of sick faith, and they're serving people of all incomes, of all faiths, every day. So it doesn't just happen at the Golden Temple.
Thank you.
Make sure you get your
This is
sense.
going to be hard. This question's not a question so much. But specific, even more specifically, I once attended a meeting of the Khalsa Toastmasters Club, which is at this Sikh temple in Silver Spring. And I got there and I said, I'm here for a Toastmasters meeting. And they said, yes, we're going to have a Toastmasters meeting. But first, let's eat. Really delicious, really very nice.
All right. Any other questions? Comments?
I can just ask the last question from my side to say, what would anyone of the panelists do different if you were to go on the pilgrimage again next time? If you can tie into the context of today's conversation, that would be more helpful. Anything, I think.
Yeah.
You know, I really don't know what I would do different. But what I do want to say is, if you're thinking of going on a pilgrimage, do it. If you're able to, there are pilgrimages that you can walk a labyrinth, and that can be your pilgrimage. And as we spoke about that earlier today. But I think too, just, I don't know, I can't really, can you answer that question? Maybe you can.
I can try. What I would do differently will be to find more solitude and to reflect. What can I do to make myself better, and as a member of the society and at large a community, how can I help? That will be my reflection, even if I do internal or external. Solitude will be my first step, more solitude. That's more reflections.
I probably spent about 4 months planning for the Hajj. I was in the Middle East for 2 weeks, and I don't think I could have spent more time planning, but I think I would have spent more time reflecting at the end. In other words, I would have taken even more time off of work to just really be. I know that if I went to undertake the Hajj again, it would probably be a completely different experience for me. I'm grateful, as I mentioned in the introduction, that I lead a Sufi study circle with a lot of non-Muslims and non-Sufis every month. And in many ways, through that self-discovery, it's like a pilgrimage. And so I guess the only thing I could do differently is being even more open to the unexpected.
Oh, okay, one more.
As you see today in our country how split and divided we are, what time period, oh, thank you, what time period did you take your pilgrimage? Many of your religions are attacked by other religions and sectioned up. The Muslims have the Sunnis, and they divide each other. What period of time did you take your pilgrimage? As of today, we have such division throughout the world. Many religions are attacked by other religions and dominated, even as good as they are. When did you take your pilgrimage yourself and Nasima? Thank you.
Mine's, I have a sad story to share on that. I took my birthright tour pilgrimage to the Holy Land in 2013. I went on the Hajj in 2015. I'm also a U.S. federal government employee, and now the U.S. government restricts some places that I could visit in the Holy Land. And that makes me sad because one of my favorite places to visit was Nablus, where I went to see the Church of the Well, and I got to see the Arab restaurant that served schnitzel. Now, as a U.S. federal employee, I am not allowed to go to that city. And I feel very sad about that. It's closed, by being a government employee, it's closed off to me. So I look forward to the day when things become more open for everybody.
When I was in Jerusalem in January, February of 2023, and we were, and you know, security is always an issue there. This was my third attempt at going to Jerusalem, and because of circumstances, you know, violent circumstances, I didn't go on the first two times, and then I went this time. And while we were walking, the last day we were there, we walked through the Christian quarter of, on the path, it's called the Via Dolorosa. It's the path that Jesus walked to his death. And we were in one chapel and we came out, and we learned later that just a few minutes after we came out, an American had gone in there with a rifle and, you know, to shoot people. And they, you know, there's just so much security there. He didn't get away with it. And he was mad at Christians. And that's unusual, you know, so he came from New Jersey to go to Jerusalem and shoot Christians in the Christian quarter of Jerusalem. You know, the world is a strange place. But one of the things is, even being there were shootings. We were in a Muslim neighborhood where we stayed, and there were shootings. There was outside a synagogue. Some Muslim people shot some people coming out from Sabbath services, and it wasn't too far away from us, and we all get phone, you know, texts from home, "Are you okay?" And it's something that, you know, it's always there. So I think one of the things about being on pilgrimage is being able to put yourself out there and to be brave. Not stupid, but brave. I mean, because no matter where you go, you never know what's going to happen. So it's there, and it kind of makes you. It adds to the reflections of your time there. You know, it's like, why do we hate each other? Why do people hate each other? And the reality of it is, most people don't hate each other, but there's a lot of leaders in the world who like to use fear and hate to get their way. So.
Again, coming to me and pilgrimage, it's just me and me and me and inside. At the same time, I would reflect 40 years ago when I was in the city of Amritsar and what I showed you. That was the day I was actually teaching at a college and I dispersed a class. And one of my students, as I walked out with them, it was the last class and the college was almost done and everybody was out. My student was kidnapped. And in the morning when I used to leave the house, I used to tell my mom, if I'm alive, I'll come back and say hi to you. If not, Orwa, Santrika. That's the kind of conditions I have grown up with. And now when I look and I ponder on Gaza situation, I always think about what teenage girls are going to become. As I got the opportunity, and I guess I'm very thankful, my family and all my friends, we Sikhs are resilient people anyways. So all my classmates as of today, they are at very high positions. What did we do to attain this level? It's the reflections. Nothing else. Be resilient, keep moving forward. Every day is a new day of life. That's why I think I'm more tuned towards the inward journey than the outward journey. To reflect every day, every moment, every bright morning is a gift to you. So just take it and live to the max.
Well, thank you. Unfortunately, we are out of time. Exactly. But I think there's some life lessons we've all picked up, right? It's about the journey. And you can make that journey internally, externally, right? We're all one, love, right? There's so many things. So I encourage all of us, especially from the Office of Human Rights, where part of our job is for all of us to get along. We don't have to all believe the same thing. We don't have to have the same faith practices or opinions, but we have to be respectful because we're all on this journey together. So on behalf of the Office of Human Rights, thank you so much for coming, spending this time with us on this beautiful Monday night. Thank you, Dr. Hema. Thank you, Reverend Ellen. Thank you, Dr. Adif. Thank you, David, for arranging this. Thank you, Kyla, for working on this. Thank you, Tiana in the back. Thank you for, I don't know your name, but doing the PowerPoint. Roseanne, thank you. Thank you to our ISL interpreters. Did I miss anyone? All right. Thank you all for coming. And we encourage you to stop by our table at the back. We have some information from the Office of Human Rights. We do many, many things. This is just one of the things that we do. So please learn about us and learn how we can be of help. If you have, if you would like to host, right? Thank you, David, for hosting. If you'd like to host at your place of faith or worship, please. We would love to do that and continue this conversation and this dialogue. The Greenbelt Community Church has kindly offered refreshments in the back so that if anybody wants to stay and can stay to make those connections, to chat a little bit more. I think there's a time limit, so eat fast. But thank you.